Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel where we do painting tutorials. I have a little winter wonderland prepared for you today, and like always I start by taping down my paper with some masking tape just to make sure it stays flat. For this entire video tutorial I'll be using the same color, which is this indigo blue pencil I have, nothing else, just this one pencil, and I start by applying it very lightly around the center, around the middle of the page, and as I approach the top left corner I use a lot of pressure because I want that to be very dark, almost black. The neat thing about indigo blue, and the reason I chose it, is when you activate it, it gives a very nice subtle blue color, but if you use a lot of pressure it looks almost black, so that's why I thought it would be ideal for this. And again, for the top right corner I use a lot of pressure, and then I come back and add some random shadows right there around that central area. Then I get my watercolor brush and I start blending using a tapping motion. I go from light to dark, so from the middle towards the top corners. And if I want to go back to a prior area, I just either clean my brush on a napkin or I apply a good amount of water and make sure to dissolve that. If it gets too dark, I just tap the napkin directly onto my page to pick up some of the excess color. The reason I chose to make a lighter area in the middle instead of just tapping directly with my napkin once everything has been placed is indigo is a bit of a staining color, meaning it will just stain the fibers. For an example, I got a drop of it on a white sock in like 2020. And that stain is still there, and I do laundry twice a week. So yeah, just better safe than sorry. While that dries, I take the same indigo pencil, I apply medium pressure beneath the tree sketch and then light pressure throughout all of the snowy fields that we're gonna have on the bottom portion of this painting, because I don't want my snow to be just flat white. Some white bits with the paper showing through are perfectly fine, but I wanted to have a bit more depth. So I also use strong pressure to the very bottom, that way it's going to look like it has a shadow. Then a very light blue hue to the snow, and then I'm gonna skip some bits on the very top to give it that little sparkle that snow has when the light hits it. Then again I take my watercolor brush and I go from light to dark. So from the top of those snowy fields towards the bottom. If I need to switch to another snowy field or I just need to reduce something, I clean my brush and I go again from light to dark. Otherwise we're gonna contaminate it and make everything just a big blotch of the same color. Then I color that little river we are going to have with indigo blue very thoroughly, very dark. And while I was waiting for everything to dry, I take some white gouache. You can use a white corrections pen, you can use some opaque watercolor, acrylic, a marker, a white pen, whatever you have. Specifically the gouache, I dilute with a bit of water and tap to add stars because again I really want to have that whimsical vibe for this painting and have some more highlights in the sky. Oh, and alternatively, you can also use masking fluid and go the difficult route and mask every teeny tiny drop and then peel it off, but that's just way too tedious for me. Then with a clean brush, I go on top of that river thingy we have. But like I said, I want depth, so once I activate it and make it smooth, I go back with a dry brush. I dry it on the napkin and I go back a bit on that piece to give it some highlights right where the snow is, so it looks like it's sort of reflecting that glow that the snow has. And once the sky and the stars have dried, I take my pencil, I sharpen it to a very nice fine point, and then go over my tree sketches. For the top of the trees, they're up in the sky, I use a lot of pressure. I want those to be almost black. But for the bottom of the branches, do pine trees have branches? Is that what you call them? Well, it's what I'm going to call them for the sake of this video. Sorry, English is not my native language. But basically, I'm just going to use this pencil for the bottom side of the branches. And I'm going to leave the top side blank. So it's going to mimic like it has snow build up onto the branches without us actually doing anything extra for this. Basically just leave some random gaps in your painting and it's going to turn out fine. Then I do all of the other trees, again leaving those spaces on top of the branches. And when you move from one tree to the tree that is next to it, remember that you left those gaps. Do not go over them because then you're just gonna give yourself extra work. And yeah, just keep that in mind. Leave some spaces between your trees. Also, it's really helpful to sharpen your pencil after you've done a couple of trees. That way you keep a nice sharp point. That's really helpful to get those treetops. They're far up in the distance and they look like needles, basically. And then I eventually got fed up, so I'm just very randomly going to scribble on the center of those trees. Again, remember to leave some empty spaces. And I also use a good amount of pressure for the very bottom because I also want some shadows to be on the snow that is beneath the trees. You're gonna see what I mean in just a bit, but once I finished coloring it, I take my watercolor brush and I go on top of my trees, and the goal here is to just make it smooth. You can see how the pencil looks a bit like a toddler colored it, so we go on top of it with the brush to smooth it out and make it look a bit more solid. Again, keep in mind, we are skipping all of those gaps to make it look like there's snow without actually having to paint the snow. So I just tap on the tips of the trees and leave said gaps, nothing extra here. And especially for the big trees, whenever I have leftover color, I swoosh it beneath them to add that shadow I mentioned. Then just lastly, I take an eraser and I pick up some of the lines with my initial pencil sketch that you can see because of the white spaces we left. It was just not pleasing to the eye and it was a bit boring to me. I quickly erase that and sign and peel off the tape, and that is it. I'd like to give a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters for the month of November, and thank you all for watching. If you found any value in this video, please let me know by liking, commenting, and if you have not already, please consider subscribing to my channel. It really helps. So if you like this, we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!